the teacher lost the connection, so we're waiting for her to reconnect.
I'm here. Hello, John. I'm Paula.
Okay, Ingrid, good evening. Hello. Thank you, Ingrid, for your information. I come from work.
Okay, well,
Mhm.
John, we are discussing an exercise in TOEFL, which is related with the topic that you read last week about semantics and the meaning of words. So we are reading an example in which we have the whole information, the whole context, which is a passage about penicillin. And we were checking here each sentence, what each sentence mentions. So we were here saying that this sentence mentioned that the person who discovered penicillin was Alexander Fleming, but there are other French and Costa Rican scientists who also knew about the properties of penicillin. Then we have that it says here that Fleming was the most important one because he drew attention on the Western scientific establishment to mold. So he was the one who published information in the scientific, let's say, journals about the benefits of penicillin and the properties. Good. So here we have some sentences that we need to infer. And if we were saying that if we need to infer, it's because the information is not explicit in the reading.
No.
So let's see. Number D says a Costa Rican scientist should really get the credit for this discovery in penicillin. So in this part of the reading, there is no word.
Sí, creo al principio. Imposible.
Sorry. There is no word that says that the Costa Rican person should be given the credit. It says that he knew. It says, it's well known that several others, including a French medical student and a Costa Rican scientist, had noted the mold's antibacterial properties. That's it. They knew the properties, but it doesn't, there is not a word that means that the person should be given the credit. Yes, so that's why that is not the correct answer. Then we have Alexander Fleming was disorganized. There is not a word in the passage that is a synonym of disorganized, or there is not a sentence that expresses that idea. So that is not the correct answer. Now B, penicillin has proven very useful, but can also have potential deadly side effects. There is no information, there is no sentence in the passage which talks about negative effects of penicillin. Only presents the positive parts. So we cannot invent and say that penicillin has a negative effect. It needs to be there. We need to link the idea with one word in the passage. So the correct sentence is A, because it says mortality rates from infections are much more lower. If we have here the word lower, we connect it with the word reduce, right? So now we have a synonym. Now we have what you read in the unit that you read, which is called semantic, the semantic relationship between words, in which we have from a word synonyms to define it. Yes. So reduce is a synonym of low or lower. In this case, the infection effect. So that's why, although in the reading we don't have exactly these words, mortality rates from infections are much lower today than they were in the 20s. We have the word reduce that have that complete idea. We say that the lives, millions of countless lives were saved. What is the word saved? It means that before they died because of the infection, right? So we connect antonyms and synonyms with the ideas that have been expressed here to find out how we can infer information. So that's why in semantics and in this type of questions, when we try to find out is the relationship between words, even with the use of synonyms or antonyms to find out inference. Is it clear?
Yes, teacher, I'm very
Yes,
interested.
teacher. Perfect. Very clear.
Okay, you found in the readings and in the videos that you watch that one problem in semantics is that idea of using more words to define words. So either we use words or pictures. So we say draw is this picture, or draw is the act of using something to put it on a piece of paper, an image, or you define it with using words, or you show the action. So it's a problem because it's a circular way of defining something. So use words to define words. It's a problem in semantics. And that idea of using words to define words is what is used for making inferences, as in what we just did in the previous exercise, or to infer. Okay, something important that I would like you also to think about is that by putting vocabulary in context, we are getting closer to what we do in real life, which is exchanging information in a specific situation with a specific people. If we put words without a context, we are not helping the students to face reality, but we are just giving one possible definition of a word. What if the person encounters the word in a different context? Ingrid?
I do have a question is that, for example, in the TBL approach, the idea is to use like a real life context. Uh, Using flashcards would be like inappropriate, right?
Yeah, like we giving the student no context. It's necessary to give the student first example. So in TBL, you tell the student, this is the conversation of people trying to buy food in a restaurant. This is the reading about a person's opinion on a movie that the person watched. Or this is a reading about the way the style life of women in a different country. So you give the context. You just present pictures, flashcards, the students will learn only one meaning of different ones that might happen according to the situation and the person you talk to or the person that speaks. what we do, so always what we will try to do in our classes is to give students examples of what they will face in real life. That's why the context is important. And also, besides giving the context, what we need to do is to have students infer, like if they were in a place where only English was spoken. So like, hey, if you are in this situation, nobody speaks Spanish, you need to analyze gestures, you need to analyze what is happening in the place, the relationship between the people who are talking, if they are both an employee, if they are husband and wife, or parent and child, and try to infer what they are talking about and the expressions they use to communicate. So the same, they should rehearse in classes. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. So we review, you have questions. What you are reading in those lessons are is that theory, like it's like what lies behind meaning, what lies behind communication. So the idea in the encounters is that we relate that theory with what we have to do in classes. How to apply it, right? How to apply that theory. So we review it, the theory of denotation. We review it. We said that this is more connected with using flashcards, so that we teach students just that for a word, there is a definition or an image, only one image. We reviewed the theory of representation that says that for a word, there is an image that the person has in his or her head, and that might be different from person to person. So that here the person's background, the person's experience in life will be connected with the image that the person has about the word. We reviewed that we have a functional approach in which communication is important and context and speaker's intention. And we said that in that functional approach, senses are important because we communicate also by using non-verbal ways to communicate, like your eyes, your ears, your body in general. And that is opposite to a formal approach that only connects the word with an image without any context. Okay. Regarding your task last week, you have questions?
I do have a question
The
about.
task was okay.
Who has a question?
No, continue.
Who has a question?
Yeah. I have a question. create. And it was, for example, I was thinking about parts of the face. Yeah.
Yes.
So I had some, I don't know, doubts about if you should like give words that doesn't belong to the field for students to choose the correct ones, or just to create like subcategories for them to classify them.
Yeah. So that's the semantic fields, right? So in semantic fields, we teach students to relate words that belong to the same category. So as you said, Ingrid, the idea of having students connect the words related to parts of the face in the category of, in that category. Well, I didn't find it. So let's say parts of the face. So we will have them list words like eyes, ears, mouth, nose, etc. And that will help them to connect, to learn, to memorize the words. Yes, we do that, but it's not the first thing that we should present. It should be in TBL, if you remember, there is one part that is related to grammar and to try to help them understand the example. So if we start the class by having the students work on this semantic field, they are not going to understand the reason why they are studying that. If we give them the objective that should be related to something that they will face in real life, a situation, could be a reading about
Freckles.
prickles,
I don't know.
but it's to include all the parts of the face so that in the reading they will find out information about ways to take care of your of the parts of your face. Or let's say a reading about personal cleaning and let's say suggestions to take care of your face. Yeah, so they will have a reading in which they will read about, let's say, different products for personal cleaning and those that are not good, or like some pieces of advice from grandmother or grandparents about how to take care of your eyes, of your ears, or maybe suggestions from doctors about how to clean your ears so that a person doesn't use drops, or the person doesn't use a stick, or the person should not use, let's say, any object that is strange to clean the ear. The same with the eyes, that the person should not scratch the eyes, but should use drops, or that for cleaning baby's nose, it would be good to use, I don't know how to say, copito, or that using just water and soap will be okay for cleaning your ears, so that they find it in a context. So the context would be suggestions to take care of your face. And that with that context, you help the students understand the vocabulary by teaching them that some words in that reading belong to a category which is called parts of the face. Yes, but that they understand that the objective of the lesson is to identify suggestions to take care of your face. Okay, so let's say that we are having a class with primary school students and that they are just learning how to take care of their bodies. So that will be, in that context, with primary school students, will be an objective that is meaningful for them, that is not complex for that specific course, that is presented in a context which is a reading, and is not just flashcards with words and let's memorize those words and just fill the gaps, but that is something more complex, that is connected to the way they will see language in real life. It would be in an audio, in a conversation, in a reading, right? And not just words, isolated words. Sorry. Okay, questions, comments? The readings are not that easy because it's like the philosophy that is behind. You don't hear me? Now you hear?
Yes, teacher, we are hearing you. Yes, teacher, we are hearing you.
Okay, the readings are the philosophy that lies behind what we do, right? There's a lot of thinking on what happens in our head when we try to communicate. What happens in, what is the theory that is behind that. So it's not that easy, but it's what we should know as teachers, English teachers. We need to think about those,
The meaning.
The meaning of words and how we communicate them and how to avoid miscommunication. Okay, questions? Okay, always when you, or next time that you read a unit, try to think about how you can connect that information with your jobs, with your teaching, with your teaching. How can you apply that theory to your teaching?
Can I ask you a question on task number 3?
If it's not about the answer of the question, yes.
Not really. But when the author talks about truth, it's just like when we talk about facts.
Okay, the truth about what we say. Yeah, so that unit is about presupposition and entailment. And your question, if it's the truth, is about, could you repeat the question? If the truth is about?
It's like what we know that is a fact. sometimes when we ask students to synthesize information, or we ask them to give facts and opinions. So the truths the author is talking about is like the facts we know.
Yes, and it's connected with either presupposition or entailment because there are different types of entailment and presupposition. So the reading is about making the difference between those two. When the truth is something that is a fact in life. So because of the nature is the way it is. So that after in our country, for example, we don't see the sunlight after 7 p.m. It's just a fact. So when we have those sentences, is that what type of entailment is that? And what is the difference between entailment and presupposition? That is the reading about.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, other question? Okay, good. So
Not really, teacher.
we can finish now and meet next week.
Perfect, teacher.
Good.
Thank you very much for your class. God bless you and see you next week.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you, teacher.
Have a good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Same to
Bye,
you.
teacher. Thank you.
God bless you.
Teacher.
God bless you.
Bye. Thank you.